Hey guys, welcome to Layman's Terms Podcast, the place where we talk about really big topics using the smallest words possible. I'm Danny the bartender.
And I'm Tommy the trash man.
And together we're just two guys trying to explain the ever-changing world around us the only way that we know how. It's a lot of, not really a lot going on, but you got this craziness now coming back with the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, which is now 3 days in the waiting. Maybe it'll be out by the time this episode gets out. But
I feel like the longer it draws out, it doesn't look good for him.
No, I just was seeing something like, I mean, you know, what can you really know? But literally just like 20 minutes ago, they reported that the defense was overheard saying it looks like the jury's now stuck at 6-6. And I don't know, you know, I guess that's even pure speculation from the defense, but they would have a better idea of it than we would.
Well, you know, I think that wherever you stand on this case, I think the most frustrating thing is watching it and like realizing, do we have is it possible to get a fair trial anymore?
Well, this is what, you know, kind of what I wanted to get into is I don't like, dude, I'm telling you right now, this is not about Kyle Rittenhouse. I really 100% believe that this is a message to us. This whole process has been to confuse you. What's right? What's wrong? What can you do? What's legal? Like I said, we talked about it before on here where we're like, can you run someone over if you are being attacked by a mob and they're smashing your windows? I mean, do you have to get out of the car? Me and you would have said, if you'd have asked me way before the riots, I would have said to somebody, yeah, you could probably just run somebody over. I mean, you're being attacked. As we seen like that, those kind of questions came up all through the protests and everything. And now what you're looking at is, dude, if Kyle Rittenhouse is not acting in self-defense, then what scenario are you acting in self-defense? You know, like, if he was legally allowed to have a gun and somebody was, you know, attacked, I think the first initial situation is the more complicated one because the guy was unarmed. After that, I mean, it's pretty clear cut case for me, you know?
Yeah. And I think there's separate cases when it comes to self-defense as let's say somebody breaks into your home, you know, you weren't doing anything. Somebody breaks into your home, you shoot the guy, even though that's a complicated situation as well, because you could still, you know, they could still get away. Well, he didn't have a gun, he or she, whoever, whatever. But at least in that situation, you're like, look, somebody broke into my home in the middle of the night. I didn't know what's going on. I don't know if he has a gun or not. He just broke into my home. With this situation, is a little bit different because Rittenhouse, you know, went to Kenosha, went out of his way to be there in the midst of things. So that adds another element to was he provoking? The argument was made. The fact that he was carrying an AR-15 is obviously that's much more aggressive. It's a little bit more threatening because it's not concealed. So there's a few different arguments to be made with that.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is and I totally agree with a lot of that, but I think I keep stepping away from this case and taking another, I'm not saying I'm not fucking, you know, I'm stepping away from it, as if I'm somehow involved in it, but it's every time I look back, I realize, wait, dude, the guy that first attacked him is a 32-year-old man. These are the things where it's you go, so that guy was a criminal, but he didn't have a gun. And Kyle Rittenhouse had a gun, you know? But that first guy that attacked him literally was went to jail 10 times for child rape. And then Kyle Rittenhouse is an underage boy at the time. And the guy told him 2 times before, when I get you alone, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Right.
You know, and then it's just even the mere fact of like a 32-year-old man attacking a young boy, like, I don't know. And I think the main thing though is going back to where I said that this case is more like, yes, it's more clear cut if somebody like comes in your home. So you'd think, but if you look at what this prosecutor, even in his final statements, he's basically saying like, if someone is unarmed, you have no right to, like, he was saying you brought a, like as if Kyle Rittenhouse was supposed to fist fight this guy or,
right.
whatever. And the thing is even just that statement alone like, that's not like, if you're saying that to a jury, like, when he's making his closing argument, he's saying, you don't have the right, like, you don't have the right to take a man's life if he's unarmed, even if he's attacking you, even if he's done all these bad things. I'm not talking about his past. I'm talking about, he names like 10 things that, like, so he threatened them verbally. So he said bad words. So he lit a couple of fires. So he was doing these things. I mean, to a certain extent, he's basically setting a precedent for, like, then at what point is someone deemed a threat to you,
Right.
But also what I see with the case as well is, I don't think that they intended to do anything. Like, you can't be as dumb as this prosecutor is unless there's a method to it. He didn't get to where he is by not understanding the law. And I 100% feel like they knew that they had a case that they were going to lose, at least as far as like the judge goes, from the beginning. So they, instead of, kind of coiling back and not running with the media narrative of what happened, they ran, because it's a political situation. They ran with the political narrative. And at every moment, no matter how absurd it may have sounded, no matter how many times the judge had to correct them for being completely in contempt of court or whatever, but they just kept shouting that narrative. So that's what you hear. That's what gets played on the news. And I think that this is going to end up being a mistrial, maybe with prejudice, maybe not. But either way, that is the outcome that I think they want. Because if you are watching the news and you're watching MSNBC, CNN, whatever, and you keep seeing just a prosecutor making the, like, if you don't know any better and you're looking at this prosecutor who you assume understands the law more than you, and he's making a closing argument saying that you don't have the right to kill someone. You don't have a right to kill somebody if they don't have a gun, which is like we said, we're still trying to figure out exactly, it's like we're walking a tightrope of like, what is the case for self-defense? That's all they're playing on the news. And then you're about to find out that the judge that they already smeared as a Trump lover somehow, or like a whatever, like they kind of accused him of being biased. I didn't necessarily say Trump, but like, he's biased, and it's more representative of this white supremacist narrative. And now the judge is going to probably overrule the jury if the jury goes with guilty or anything. I don't know. Maybe they can be a hung jury or something. And then the judge is probably going to step in, and rightfully so, throw this thing out on because of all these mistakes made by the prosecutor. And then what do you think the public's going to think? This was a case of a white supremacist and they're going to believe everything that they believed prior, who illegally went there with an illegal gun, who had no right to have a gun. He had no right to be there whatsoever. And he just went there to kill people. They're probably even still going to believe that he killed black people. And then they're going to believe the jury found him guilty. And then the biased judge stepped in and gave this kid another shot.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned, because I was going to interject at some point and to say this is all political, and it sucks. And that's what I mean when I started off saying, are we in a time now that we can actually get a fair trial? So you being from Baltimore, somebody I follow, Kim Klacik, Republican woman from Baltimore. She tweeted the other day, a 5-year-old girl is the 300th homicide today in Baltimore City. My heart hurts. This city is running on autopilot. 300 homicide in Baltimore City. Now,
It's the 7th consecutive year.
You're not going to hear any of those names, more than likely. You're not going to know any of the details, anything about the case. Most people aren't going to be all on Twitter and Facebook. The president of the United States isn't going to tweet about it. And here we have this kid who goes to Kenosha. He has family in Kenosha. Everybody's like, oh, he should have never been there. Well, he has family in Kenosha. Is that a reason to go as a 17-year-old kid out of your way? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know exactly all the details which led him to that night to why. But we also have to go back to the fact that why would a 17-year-old feel compelled to go there in the first place? And it all revolves around Jacob Blake. And that was another exploited politically case that, he was shot by the police. And actually, I didn't even know that he was on a Good Morning America with Michael Strahan. And I saw clips of it. And
Kyle was?
No.
Gage.
No, Jacob Blake.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead.
Jacob Blake, whatever. That was the guy that was killed in Kenosha. No, he wasn't. He was shot by the cops in Kenosha. He wasn't killed. He's paralyzed. And that because it was a black man shot by white officers, of course.
No,
Again,
I just
politicized, and he was paralyzed. What's her name? Kamala Harris went to the hospital to go see him. Here's a guy who was charged with sexual assault, was fighting the police officers, had a knife, and he mentions in the interview with Michael Strahan that he dropped the knife and he went to go pick it back up. And he pulled the tasers out of him. So, like, that's another thing people, a lot of times, I think we've probably talked about this. A lot of times the tasers don't work. There are situations where they're ineffective. So all of this culminates to the point where going back to, George Floyd, going back to even before that with Trayvon Martin, all of these situations that get exploited by the media and politicians, they get blown up all over social media. The narrative is completely biased and usually off. People are not fully aware of these situations. They go on fucking Facebook, they go on all their social media things and just tweet out things and completely just, I don't know how you can find a jury. In what world can you find a jury that isn't aware of any of these cases?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. We had 30 deaths that were contributed to the George Floyd riots. So all throughout the United States, cities were burning, looting, rioting, and you have certain media outlets that'll tell you, like, no, that's not happening. You have CNN reporters standing there reporting in wherever certain areas they're in, while there's flames and buildings on fire behind them, and they're like, these protests were peaceful pretty much all night. Meanwhile, again, the city's burning behind them.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. So, like, that, all of these things culminate. People are seeing that over the past several years. So what gun sales go up? The police that show up, they're already under a fine lens. Like, they're criticized every step they take.
Well, and also remember, at every step too, you're losing chunks of the police.
Yeah, so they're stepping back. They're not as active. They're not. So now you're seeing more people taking up arms and going out and defending themselves in certain situations, which is inevitable because your government's telling you, no. Your government's bailing these people out as you're watching them, run down the street with TVs and breaking into Nike and lighting and seeing people. I saw a video the other day of a guy that was robbing a bank or whatever, and he attacked a dude maybe it wasn't robbing a bank. It was a security guard that was kicking this guy away from something, and he caved his fucking head in with a skateboard. You know what I mean? So
No,
like,
that yeah, wait. I don't know if it's the if that there was a. I thought that just happened today, but that was something that they pointed out with the Rittenhouse case today. I seen a thing going around about whoever maybe they hit him yesterday and he died today, but that guy's dead.
I don't know. I don't know what situation,
Well,
but
either way, there was a guy that was there was a media report today that whoever was hit in the head with a skateboard died.
so for anybody that thinks, well, why would a 17-year-old do that? Well, because our government failed. Our government wasn't doing its job.
Well,
Our
they
government wasn't protecting cities. They weren't protecting
yeah.
people. So that's what's going to happen. It's no different than if you go into, you know, into a lot of the inner cities where you don't snitch. You don't talk to cops, you don't snitch. So there's a lot of vigilante justice within those communities, within inner cities. You know what I mean? Like, we'll handle this on our own. Well, that's not right. And now all of a sudden they're calling, white vigilantes and white tears and white supremacy, when the reality is this kid went there because our government failed to begin with. It failed to protect businesses, cities. And we're not just talking about, there's black people that were injured. There's black businesses that were injured or destroyed, I should say. So this all revolves around the governments failing us. And then they're going to turn around and flip this. And like I said, with Joe Biden tweeting out about Kyle Rittenhouse and white supremacy, it's like the dude shot only white people. He only shot white people.
White people, and one of them was saying the N-word.
Yeah. And you ever notice too, because every single one of them that got shot and two of them died, they all had records. They weren't some choir boys, which is again what we talked about on this podcast. You ever notice that it's not like good upstanding citizens that really happens to?
This is my thing about like the bird's eye view thing, where I said like every time I step away, like if you just look, like let's like I said, like the first dude he killed is kind of I think it's clear as cut self-defense, but I could see, like, even myself, if we didn't know the law and we're sitting there just talking to two random people, we're made up the scenario. And I said, can you kill somebody if they come running at you, said they were going to kill you, start trying to grab your gun out of your hand? I mean, that's a debatable, like, I don't know what the law is, let's say, but I could see two people just debating that in the way that law was created. I mean, you're debating like, well, I mean, your life's still in danger, but it's debatable, but move on to these guys. When you're saying like they have records and stuff, the very last guy said in court that he pointed his gun at him. But here's what I mean about the bird's eye view thing. Then that guy's on CNN and he's a victim. He's being like the victim. He's being talked like a victim, yet he's got this rap sheet of a record. But like this is where they're breaking your reality. Like, Kyle Rittenhouse had a gun, and at first it was, but it may not have been legal that he was holding on to it. Although everything else about it was legal, but there may have been a stipulation that made it illegal for him. Yet they're bringing these guys on CNN to talk about how horrible Kyle Rittenhouse is. Yet the guy who had a gun had a record. He slapped his grandmother in the face. That's one of the charges. Open-handed his grandmom or something. And he's got a gun that he legally can't own. And the reason why Kyle Rittenhouse was allowed to carry a gun was because he was openly carrying a rifle.
Right.
This dude's got a illegal handgun and priors. But yet this is what I mean about like taking a step back. Like, so we fall into the whole thing. Like we're all the pressure's on Kyle in your head. Like, I don't know. He should be able to defend himself, whatever. And then they're bringing these guys on to tell their story about, oh, I was just there. Like all the same questions that they're ridiculing Kyle for. Like, well, who does he think he is to bring a gun there? What was he even doing there anyway? There's a guy who came there to destroy shit and burn shit and wasn't from there. and came there, has prior criminal convictions, and isn't legally allowed to own a gun, and you're not legally allowed to carry a handgun, and he breaking all them rules, and all eyes are on why the hell was Kyle Rittenhouse there? Well, to me, here's the thing. Then when they ask Kyle Rittenhouse questions like, well, why did you think you would need a gun? Well, because there's guys there that have criminal backgrounds that are trying to destroy shit and illegally carrying firearms. That's why I needed a gun. You know what I mean?
And I'm sure he's fully aware of all of the riots that he's seen over the past several years. And again, he has family there. He sees businesses boarded up. There was literally houses built, like boarded up. I was listening to somebody that was there on the ground saying like children live here. There was a retirement home that was saying like the elderly live here. Like they weren't doing that in fear of Kyle Rittenhouse. They're doing that in fear of the guys that he shot.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I mean. Like, so you walk this fine line, you know, it's like, well, did he deserve to shoot Rosenbaum? You know, he was unarmed. And the video shows, first of all, I thought it was weird because they were like, well, he threw a plastic bag at him. And I'm like, well, if you just throw a plastic bag, it's not going to go far. There had to be something in it because it flew pretty far. One.
Do you know what that plastic bag was? It was the best part.
No, I don't. But like that was the narrative that I've been hearing, like people saying, well, he threw a plastic bag at him. But the way it flew, there's no way it was empty.
No, empty. Here's I'm not trying to interrupt you. I want to say like, so the throw in the bag thing, was just like a dumb thing. Like if just the bag wasn't a threat thing, right? But the bag is important to me because he was carrying around a plastic bag and one side of the bag was completely clear. What that bag was he had just gotten released from jail and he was carrying around his his release bag where they give you everything that you own.
Right.
Now, apparently it was brought up that this was said earlier, but basically when they're showing that overhead footage, what they show you is, and this is something that I don't know why, whether I don't want to say that the media didn't like talk about it because it also looked like the defense didn't talk about it. And I would assume that they must not bring it up because then there's you can go a lot of avenues where it comes back to Kyle Rittenhouse. But dude, what I think happened is, what's the first thing you thought when you saw Kyle Rittenhouse? Like, be honest. When you first saw a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse, they were like, Kyle Rittenhouse fucking like shot like fucking 2-3 guys, whatever. I thought like that little like nerdy looking kid, right?
Right.
Well, basically, because I watched a big portion of this trial, and basically what happened was, but they don't like what I'm putting my own thing in my head. You have this 32-year-old, like picture you're in Southwest and some 32-year-old, the way he thinks about 16, 17-year-olds, right? Like he wouldn't give a fuck if you had a shotgun in your hand. You know what I mean? And this dude's walking by and the dude keeps saying to him, like, I'm going to fucking get you alone. I'm going to fucking kill you and stuff like that. Like every time he sees him on the street. So it's what happened where the bag thrown and all comes in is they literally lured him into this parking lot. They went out, started a fire, and they're showing you in the overhead, two guys go and hide behind a car. They go out and purposely start a little fire in a trash can, knowing that he would come over to put it out. The minute he comes over to put it out, they kind of came out from behind the car a little bit too early, chased him into the parking lot. He didn't go exactly where they wanted him to go. So the dude he ended up killing was a little bit behind him, started running at him and just threw his bag in the air at him. But like, that wasn't like oh my God, he's trying to kill him with what he got with the bag.
Well, but you saw something fly. Like initially, like in the video, you saw something thrown in his direction. You didn't really know what it was.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah. Like I mean, maybe that came out as it went on, but and also they have video of that dude earlier. Like he's got a mask on his face. He's swinging a big chain around. the dude that Kyle shot, because they kept bringing it up, like they were trying to accuse a lot of these like freelance photographers, whatever you want to call them. They were trying to accuse them of like antagonizing the dude or something, because they would ask them questions like, why is he in all of your videos? Why does it seem that you were so focused on him? And all of them said the same thing. They were like, look, I'm there to shoot the action. And that guy was like he flipped over a trailer. He lit it on fire. He was throwing dumpsters at the police. He took a chain off the dumpster and was like, kept it with him for half the night, was like swinging it around his head. He was making threats. Like they basically said like, the reason why we have so much video of this guy is because he was like the main antagonist of this whole crew.
He's drawing a lot of attention to himself.
Yeah. And so like, so what I thought in my head was from remember now, they brought it up several times. They purposely ambushed Kyle. Like they clearly, two guys hid behind a car. One guy drew Kyle in. Then they all came out, kind of chased him. But Rosenbaum kind of went all the way through with it and chased him. Like what they originally wanted to do didn't happen, but Rosenbaum went with it anyway.
Right.
My thought is that Rosenbaum saw this little kid and was like, I'm going to steal his AR. Like, I don't think he ever thought the outcome was going to, I think he thought there's a little kid probably scared shitless if anything really happens to him. He's walking around, medic, friendly, putting out fires.
Right.
Now we got him completely away from his whole crew, because the other thing too is he was asked to be there. That's another thing I didn't know. He wasn't just like, I'm going to go down there or whatever. A group of people were asked to keep an eye on these car lots, and it was his friends, and they asked him to help them.
Right.
And so what happened was every once in a while, he would take little journeys from one car lot to the next, usually with 2 or 3 people. And on the way, he would say, medic, or anybody need any fucking medic, or whatever. He would help put out fires. This particular moment, somehow, he just ended up alone. And once he was alone, this dude that's been hounding him all day long decided to fucking corner him in this parking lot. And like I said, I mean, my opinion is they tried to steal his gun. But at first, I kept thinking, it's so obvious. Like they're showing like football, like they're circling the guy. Look, they go behind the car. They do this. I'm like, why would they not bring that up? And then I thought later, well, if this whole thing started because a guy wanted to steal your gun, then they could make the argument that the only reason why anything happened was because you brought a gun. You know what I mean?
Right.
But either way, whatever. Like the bottom line though is that's what I totally saw is I don't think that this 30, I don't know what the dude intended to do, but the whole thing and what I keep saying to anybody who feels any differently about it is like, it's not a question for you to ask what you would do. Like, what would I do? Probably not go down to the car source and be like, let's get our boys together and get our AKs out, or whatever. Whatever. What are the ARs out,
Yeah, right.
But the thing is if someone does, like, if you're like, I mean, it's like when you're like, I always say it, like, with my friends, like I've been in situations where I'm talking a guy down from a fight. He's like, fuck that shit. And me, I'm a lot more passive than others. Like you could almost spit in my face before I do something,
Yeah.
You have to punch me in the face.
Right.
But I know people that are like, you heard what he just said, right? And I'm like, dude, I know. And then you have that friend where you're like, he's going to punch him because that. Now, if I don't think my friend's wrong. I do think it's something I wouldn't have done. And I might not have done it because, dude, I know he just spit in your face, but he's with 12 big giant dudes.
Right.
But does that negate the fact that guy disrespected him in a way that deserves to be retaliated or that he has a right to, or Did he, whatever? Now that's a different thing because fights are fights. I'm just saying there are people out there that kind of walk a different line than you. They have a different idea of what their rights are. Whereas me and you might say, hey, board up the fucking house because there's about to be a riot. Other people might say, not on my street. Nobody's going to break my windows. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they have a right. They have a right.
Well, especially when you have governments that are allowing it to happen.
Yeah, and they asked him that. That was another thing. Like there's so many things.
I mean, and that's the element. Whereas, like, look, a lot of people probably wouldn't ask Kyle Rittenhouse to go there to begin with if they felt confident that their government and the police would be handling the situation.
Dude,
but they weren't.
That's what I thought was so like hilarious too, was when Kyle Rittenhouse took the stand, the prosecutor was like, so why did you feel that you needed to whatever? And he's like, well, isn't that the police's job? And they went down this line of questioning where at every moment you were like, they weren't doing anything,
Right.
They weren't doing anything. And there was a guy, I don't know his name, but he was actually a witness in the trial. He was also another one of them freelance photographers. He's got something to do with Tim Pool and him. Yeah. And that dude was like one thing he keeps saying is he's like, dude, that riot was different than all the other ones. He said other ones were like protests that turned into violence, that went back to protests in the morning, now, like I said, I mean, I'm only using like his words, but the way he describes Kenosha, and he apparently was like running around all these places and been at all of them. He said Kenosha was just like violence and nonsense. And like so that's where he brings up, like, they were putting like children live here, please. Like, he was saying it was like so different than all the other protests. And so look, I don't even think Kyle had any, I doubt the dude. This is what I mean. Like, I really think like you could sit here and me and you would probably make like before any of this happened. If we met Kyle on the street and we were like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm getting my AR. I'm going whatever. Like, picture that fucking weirdo dude, that does shit you don't understand. He hunts and he takes it real fucking. You go there and you're like, oh, we're hunting. You got a little orange jacket on because you're just there because it's your first time. This dude's fucking got a sniper thing that he fucking made in a tree. He's covered in leaves. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of half joking, but I mean, some people are just different,
Yeah.
But they're still going within the law. And the whole thing is like, in other words, like you or I, the reason why I wouldn't go and be Kyle is because I would feel that if I'm going to walk around a riot with an AR, I'm probably I'm going to bring trouble to me.
Right.
But there are people but if there aren't people like Kyle, there might be trouble coming to me anyway when I'm hiding in my house.
Right.
There
could be more, not even just to you, but to the neighborhood, to businesses, to other innocent people. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the one thing they're not talking about in a sense, I guess you can't do it though, is like, he wasn't alone. He had groups of guys. And one of the things that they kept showing, because this whole thing, like he's there to murder people and all this stuff. They have video of like the guys that were on the roof of the car source with guns, and the dudes were down on the bottom throwing rocks at them and shit, like big rocks and yelling shit. And Kyle came out like without even touching his gun and was like kind of like calm, like talked it down. And so they're saying like, if he was here to kill people, why would he walk out to a guy who's throwing rocks and not even touch his gun and talk the guy out of like what he was doing? But again, like somebody, I've heard somebody debating this, and they're like, look, the kid's self-defense all the way. I think the real issue here is more of a parenting issue. Like, in other words, I'm not going to let my fucking kid go anywhere with his AR-15, especially into the scariest place that I don't want him to go. But the thing is I'm not going to war either. I'm not signing up to fucking go to fucking Iraq. But people do. And when they do, you have to understand that whether you are aligned with that kind of person, whether you want to raise that kind of kid, whether you want to be that kind of person, these are the people that are doing what we don't want to do, that keep America, America, that keep you free. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, if I can make that statement for Kyle Rittenhouse, I don't know. But what I will say is, like I said, he was part of a bigger group. Like, who knows what did that group? I mean, there's no way to say it or whatever, but did that group keep anyone safe? How many places did they keep safe? Like, we'll never know. But the whole, like, the bottom line is, if me and you were sitting, if just the bottom line, and I wouldn't care the color of the person or anything, if me and you were locked in our house because of a riot and we were like, I'm not going to fuck outside. And then the next day you woke up and you heard a story of the people that have been burning your city down for 3 days, started with a guy who was protecting his friend's property, and they tried to take his gun and he blew one of them away, and another guy tried to hit him over the the mob tried to chase him away. I mean, I would be like, well, that's what happens. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of like killing me, is that the story is, not only is it like blowing out of proportion that it's not self-defense, he's a white supremacist. This is an example, like, defending, you're right, because I understand the whole white supremacy thing, because for some reason, seeing a little white kid who feels privileged enough to go into a riot and hold a gun, even though he's doing, like, it's like, I don't think that they understand that legal concept of, like, they think that people that think that they can live even within the law like that, like, in other words, this white kid who thinks that he's protected by the law just because it's a law makes him a kid who's like, think about how crazy that must be, that if you're white, you think the law is actually going to apply to you in the way that it should. And that makes you this white privileged person. Then on top of that, any white person who cares about my right to own a gun and loves America and feels that he wants to protect it, that's where the white supremacist layer gets smeared on top. Like, that attitude. I mean, the judge is a perfect example. His phone goes off and the song is "Proud to Be an American," and he's biased. Like, a judge who loves America is biased because he has a patriotic song on his phone. So being patriotic and saying I love America makes you biased.
Yeah. So the thing about, Kyle, and first of all, one thing is there were plenty, maybe not in Kenosha, I don't know, but across the United States when riots were happening, there were black people that were out there with guns as well that were protecting businesses. So obviously they know their rights, they know the laws, and they felt compelled to go out and do the same thing. They could have easily been in Kyle's situation. You know what I mean? Easily. And I'm sure, I don't know. I haven't really heard of any stories, but there, like I said earlier, there were 30 people altogether that died throughout the United States during the George Floyd protests. So the situation with Kyle, when Rosenbaum does go to kind of corner him, and his argument was that he went to grab my gun. So then I felt like he had to shoot him. And obviously the guy made threats to him. The guy was clearly off his rocker, based off of video footage and other witnesses that explained, even the prosecutor explained the things that he did that night. So we see the devastation of like a madman, like an active shooter in Vegas during a concert that just wants to pop off rounds and kill people. We've seen it time and time again through mass shootings, you know what I mean? In Florida, at the nightclubs, whatever. This was not that case. When that happened with Rosenbaum, that's probably the only one that you can question. The other two, it's not even a question to me. because even after he shot Rosenbaum, he called the cops, waited there. Gangs of mobs were screaming. He shot someone. So more people started to go after him. He's running towards where the police are. He gets attacked again, falls to the ground, hits with a skateboard. At this point, if he was just some reckless guy that wanted to just kill all these black people and protesters or whatever, he would just be opening fire, just shooting wildly all into the crowd. But he wasn't. Under those circumstances, he was pretty composed. He was controlled. More so as a 17-year-old kid under those conditions, more so than a lot of people would be.
Dude, I mean, let's be really honest. Whatever you think about it, the fact that he didn't hit anybody that he at least didn't intend to, and the fact that nobody got his gun in that crowd, and the fact that, like, I don't even think he's that good. There was like somebody was on. I mean, I don't want to. Like I said, I don't know. Like, I don't even want to say God was on his side or something. But the bottom line is like luck in that kid's favor. Like, this would be a whole different case if somebody standing on the sideline just caught a bullet in the arm. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and he hit everybody that he intended to hit, and it's kind of. And then he did everything that he's supposed to do, like things that you even taught me where, like, look, if you pull the trigger, like he pumped 4 shots in the first dude he killed. He had 4 shots, boom, 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 all in the fucking chest, killed him instantly.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think, remember, like I said, like you taught me, that's what people are kind of trained to do.
You're going to be center mass. Yeah.
Yeah. And also like, and apparently like, and you don't just do 1 shot. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because one shot isn't always going to do the trick.
Yeah, and I mean,
especially when adrenaline's flowing, you've seen people in war, they don't even realize they've been shot.
But so I think that's the really kind of crazy thing about this case is all of the things that we're debating, all of the things that all of us are debating are just things where we're comparing us to them, not the law, you know? Like, right. Somebody might say, did he have to put 4 in his chest? I mean, that's if you're training, you know what I mean? Like if you're actually training self-defense, they don't tell you like hit him in his, whatever.
Well, that's the thing about social media, and everybody thinks they know what should be done. Like, should that police officer shot Micaiah, whatever her name was, that in Chicago when she was going to stab the other girl? Well, he could have shot her in the leg, or he could have shot her in the hand. Like, dude, you didn't realize how hard that is to shoot somebody in the hand, like as it's moving. Like,
yeah. And before, like, even like, this is what I mean about like Kyle Rittenhouse being like lucky or something. Even the last guy he shot where he exploded his bicep, bro. That is one of the craziest things I've ever seen, is that if it really went down the way it went, like he didn't shoot him, the dude backed up, then the dude went back forward, then the dude raised his gun, and Kyle from the ground nailed him in his bicep. Like, just going for his bicep alone, like that might have been a lucky shot or something.
Yeah. But the only thing that's close proximity, like they were pretty close. So it makes it a little bit easier.
But either way, what I'm just saying is,
yeah.
If that would have been a situation where if he didn't get that dude where he got that dude, and he only got off that 1 shot, speaking of like the center mass and shoot to kill, and that guy, if he'd have hit him in his shoulder or like the other shoulder or something, and thought like, I'll hit him once with it, I mean, the dude could still shoot him. So, it is what it is. But the thing that, like, that's my thing that drives me nuts is that everybody's kind of putting in and that's what I don't like that the prosecutors even did, is that's how they're kind of saying it. Like, at one point, I think they even said, like, you could shoot him in the hip, you could whatever. And the first guy, Rosenbaum or whatever, they had the coroner come in. I don't know if you know this. So one of the big, like, that's what's making me mad, that this kid's life is still, if the jury is 6-6 right now, what I am more afraid of in this world, if you look at where we are in this world and think about your friends, okay? Think about how you have argued with people, even over just simple things like a man robbing your house who's unarmed, you know, and your friends are like, well, you should just let him rob your house. You know what I mean? And you'll literally get to a point where you're like in a screaming match. And I'm not saying you're always right, but in this instance, you'd be right, you know? And that guy could end up on a jury. And your jury doesn't get filled with people that are, you know, like I wanted to make a joke before about juries where you think your life is in the hands of 12 intelligent people, and your life is in the hands of 12 people that couldn't figure out a way to get out of jury, dude. You know what I mean? Like your life is in the hands of people that didn't have an excuse to get out of jury duty. They didn't have, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm just making a joke here. I'm not saying that about juries. But what I am saying is they're regular people who are just as this jury selection didn't end up being 12 people who can hover above all the politics in the world. And they're, even though they're from Kenosha and they're certain genders, certain races, certain whatever, these people are as polarized as anyone else is right now in this country. And they're sitting in a room and they have a prosecutor explaining to them that he could have shot him in the hip. He was only going for his gun, like saying that, like as if that's okay, you know? And what makes me so mad is all of these things that the prosecutor has put forward have been completely debunked. One of which is they said that he never got close enough to like get his gun, like whatever. And the coroner report said that the dude had muzzle fucking fire on his hands. So like the dude grabbed his gun. Like that's totally debunked in a sense.
Well, and the thing about that is too, and we've talked about this in one of the podcasts, I'm pretty sure, is the Ahmaud Arbery case, which I think is going on right now. Right?
Now that's a totally different story.
Well, it is and it isn't though, because the reports are that he went to grab their gun. So then it escalates the situation. Like you can make the argument that no, I pulled my gun out on him, but I didn't shoot him until he went to grab it. And it's very similar to the Rosenbaum situation. Like if he goes to grab the gun, then you don't know, like Kyle said, like he could take that gun and use it against me. So it's no different. Like I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast or whatever, but when I was like 14 years old, we got held up at gunpoint, and guy pulled his gun like and just kind of showed it, and then like has it back in his pocket, kind of. Now, as a 14-year-old kid, I was like, holy shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, and like froze. And like me and my buddy froze. That's what you would do. Like, you got a gun, somebody, you know what I mean? Like, especially at 14, that's what you're going to do. If I would have grabbed that dude's gun.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Then he's like, holy shit. Then he's going to start fighting back. And then boom, boom, boom. Then it happened. Now, I didn't do that. The dude possibly could have still shot me. Well, obviously he didn't. You know, I'm still here.
Yeah.
But the fact that if I was to lunge and grab for his gun, which obviously I'm not saying that you shouldn't if you feel threatened. I mean, look, not everybody, some people, they're going to react differently to that situation. They might be thinking, well, if I'm going to get popped, I'm going to fight back. You know what I mean?
Well,
but you could read that situation. Look, you could read that situation wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like I could have read it wrong, and I could have been like, oh my God, I'm going to die here. I got to fight this dude to get this gun away from this guy. And then he shoots me.
Yeah.
Which that might not have been his intention. And that might not have been their intention with the Ahmaud Arbery case. And that might not have been Kyle Rittenhouse's intention until he went to grab the gun. So once you make that decision, everything kind of changes. It's not a really easy, as much as this prosecution wants to say, oh, well,
yeah,
it's not an easy thing, until you're in that moment, the heat of the moment, it actually happens to you. Then and plus the fact that if this random guy just ran up to Kyle and maybe kind of grabbed his gun, I mean, first of all, I don't really know, but what I'm trying to say is in that situation, Rosenbaum was acting erratically and causing chaos, where like his behavior would lead you to believe that this dude's crazy, and if he does have my gun, he's here to like start trouble and do things. He might shoot me. He already said, if I catch you alone, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Whereas like the guy that came up to me just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, so there was no indications. It's not like I saw him over across the street and he was doing some fucked up shit and then came over to me.
Yeah.
Whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like
so,
you were able to, at least in your own mind, you assessed, I'm just being robbed.
Yeah. So like Kyle was looking at this dude, like this dude is a threat.
Yeah.
Like right from before that confrontation even happened, he probably looked at that dude as he could be a potential threat.
Yeah, like I was watching a little bit of the Ahmad. I was watching that dude, the main dude, the dude who killed him's like testimony today.
Yeah.
And like, here's my thing. You are right in what you said. I was even thinking it when he was saying it, but because you're saying like an earlier threat, there's a lot to that story that people don't know. I still think just from what I've seen, it's kind of like it's one of them things where it's like, maybe those guys were right or whatever, but it was just a shit show all around. But however, with what you're saying, the one thing that I didn't know, and it may or may not be true. Like it's one of them things where I don't think there's evidence of it, but the guy earlier, like the day before, they went up to the guy because they thought something. Like what people don't know is it wasn't like the guy just ran into that building, ran out, and they were like, oh, that guy's robbing that empty construction site. Somebody had been going and messing with the construction site, so they had been told to keep an eye on it. They went down the street the night before, saw the same guy, and it was proven to be true that it was Ahmaud Arbery or whatever. And they went up to him and said, hey, what are you doing in there or something? And they said that the guy faked like he had a gun, like went in his pants like he had a gun. So the story that we all see is them just chasing the guy jogging down the street, and they're being asked, well, why'd you pull your guns on him and stuff? And the dude was like, well, because once I confirmed it was the same guy from yesterday, he had threatened me like he had a gun. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is it goes into what you were saying. Like, if you just saw that guy earlier and he was on the street, showed you a gun, so when I catch you alone, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And then you get robbed by him.
My reaction may be different.
Yeah. But it also goes into what I was saying earlier about other people. And I'll kind of say a funny thing that I've said on here before. I feel like you might've been here for this. And I definitely brought this up before. I'm not going to say any names, but it's a person who may or may not still watch this podcast. I remember we were going to get, what's that place it's the place where you would always go to get beer. Like I had my other places, but if I was like going to meet you and this other person, we would go up to like Woodland Avenue.
Yeah. Yeah. Woodland Village.
Yeah. So there was the Hispanic dude that used to get, or there was a dude there. Cause I mean, I doubt he ever got us beer again, but they got some dude this time to get us beer. And we gave him money and he went in and he was doing this weird thing. Like he was coming out. Then all of a sudden he came out and said like, oh, they wouldn't let me get it for you. But then he tried to not give us our money.
Yeah.
So dude's standing there, pulls the money out for some reason. And this individual grabs the money right out of the dude's hand and just takes off.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking standing there with these dudes on like the corner of Woodland Avenue. And either way, it just took me 5 more seconds. Like either I ran, I mean, nothing happened to me, but I was just standing there looking at these guys like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like right. I didn't see it coming. Now, I would have taken the loss. I would have been like, this fucking guy just took my $20. Okay.
Right.
The person that was there that day handled it very differently. He might have put us both in jeopardy. Maybe, I actually think what he did was amazing. What he did was what I was too afraid to do.
Right.
Like you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying he shouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done it. But if I would have got my ass whooped, even my only concern, my only thing that I would have felt that I could say to him later would be like, maybe give me a heads up. But maybe in his mind, it's like, what do you mean give you a heads up? This is what we do. We got to get the fuck out of here. You know, like, why are you hesitating? However, I guess what I'm saying is that's how he might feel if he's in a situation where, like, if his life was in danger, he's gonna react differently than me, maybe more brave than me. Whereas, like you said, you're getting robbed. If I have the reason why I don't carry a concealed weapon or whatever, or why I never really seeked one out, isn't because I don't feel that I have the right to carry a gun or that I don't want to carry a gun. It's because if a guy robs me, all he's going to do is get my gun as well. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you know, and there are other people out there that they'll pull the gun. They can't wait. Like, they have a gun because if you pull a gun on them, they're pulling a gun on you.
Right.
And somebody can debate, why don't you just give them your money? Some people feel like that. Like, there are people out there that's in their mind. It's like they taking property from them, taking their hard-earned money from them is like, you know, it's like just like shooting them in the face or something, you know? And I would disagree. But if you told me my friend got robbed and he pulled the gun out and he killed the guy, or vice versa, there'd be people going, why? I mean, I would be sitting there probably upset that something happened and that my friend died over it. But I would never, ever say he's an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, if that's who he was, you know what I mean? Like, if that's who he was and that's what he did, that's what happens. Like, that's that line you cross where some of us won't cross it, but it's that line is there, you know?
Yeah. Well, and here's also an interesting thing too with, when you have discussions with people and people's perception of the case. I being in theater, I have a lot of liberal friends, and I remember getting into an argument with a liberal on Facebook uh, about guns and the Second Amendment and all that stuff. And he was saying the argument was something like I was like, well, somebody breaks into your house, like you have a gun, you have to protect your family. It is what it is. Like, and somebody gets shot, like it's not what I want to happen. You know what I mean? But I'm going to do it if necessary. And he's like, well, that's just ridiculous because they're probably just there to like rob you, like, and take your TV or something. And this is what I mean, where like, it's so fascinating to me how some people, their brains work that way, as if, how can you tell what somebody else is going to do? You know what I mean? Like, and this is what I mean, how it's so important to be able to read the situation. If somebody were to break into my house tonight, I'm armed, I have a gun. If I pull a gun on them and they fucking put their hands up in the air and they drop to their knees and put their hands on their head or whatever, I'm not going to shoot the dude. You know what I mean? But if I'm like, yo, freeze, like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's all like moving around, and then all of a sudden, like, he fucking charges at me, I'm probably going to shoot.
Yeah, like if they don't
Because
go right
because
back to where they came from.
because I don't know. I have no idea. This dude might be, on drugs. I have no idea. I can't make that determination. I don't know because and also his argument was like, well, what if he doesn't have a gun? Well, so what? I don't know. Maybe he has a knife. I don't know. I'm not going to take that chance.
Well, the other
Risk
thing,
my own life, like, from just all I was doing was sleeping in bed, and somebody decides to break into my house. And it was just like, I just saw a video an hour ago, where a dude had a guy on the ground because He broke in it. It was in Texas, I think. He tried to break into his car, and dude pulled the gun on him. And the dude who was breaking into his car laid down on the ground. So he laid down on the ground. He had his gun pointed at him, and he waited there until the cops got there.
Yeah, I think I saw that one.
And again, if the dude would have wrestled with him, somebody could have ended up being shot and killed.
Yeah. Well, another thing too, because I think about the house thing a lot, because the thing that I think is funny is we talk about like even the robbing the car or robbing whatever. And I am very like, look, I don't even want to have a gun on me because I don't want to be in this situation.
Right. No, absolutely.
But a guy that thinks like that, if you come in my house, like I've never, like, I'm not like, how people are cocky, like I'll fucking kill you. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No, man, I'll never say that in any other situation. But if you come crawling in my window and I happen to have a gun, well, here's the thing. For me, now there's guns all over my house. But if the thing for me is, I'm talking about like if I grab a hammer and a dude's crawling in my window and I'm like, get the fuck out of my house, and he keeps crawling in my window, like if I had a gun, I'm shooting him 100 times so that thing's empty.
Right.
If I don't have a gun and I have an opportunity, I mean, I literally, it's like I don't even feel disgusted as I discuss it in my head. I will smash your head in with that. Like, I mean, to the point where I picture it like a gory scene. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. And my thing about the house thing is, I've known people who have been robbed like that, where it was weird. Like, a dude came in the middle of the night and like stole their fucking underwear, even like didn't even do anything, like, whatever. But like, like weird shit happened. Dude, those people live in fear for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Because like they say, when your house is violated, you'll never feel like, because the thing is you don't like this goes back to when you were saying getting robbed. Like, you didn't see that guy across the street like telling you, I'm going to kill you. The guy just popped up out of nowhere and he fucking had a gun, and you just said, this is a burglary probably, or I hope, but your brain didn't have to wander anywhere.
It was also broad daylight, and there was like people walking by. So that's another thing. Like, you're kind of like, I don't know, is he really gonna shoot? You know what I mean? Like,
but so keep even all those same factors, right? It's broad daylight. You hear somebody outside your window, like I'm not like somebody's out there like planting flowers, like people like normal activity. It's broad daylight. You turn around and there's a guy standing in your room, gun or not, and he's like, I'm going to take all your shit or something, whatever. It's like when you're outside coming out of a store, your brain is already able to understand the possibilities of what happened. When you walk back, you would have to tell yourself every time you walk into that store, if you ever go, oh man, I'm nervous, whatever, you'd have to tell yourself, dude, like, the guy robbed you. He's not going to be there every time you go there, whatever else. But if you let that man out of your house and you can't really fathom too much of how he got in there, and it was broad day, like all those factors that you said helped you in the one situation would even scare me more in the next situation. And it's like, now every time you come home, you're going to be horrified. There's a possibility of someone standing there. So I have a fear of that so much that if I don't get the opportunity to scare the shit out of someone and they leave, like I said, like if the guy crawls in there, fucking, I come down and I have a gun, I said, get the fuck out of my house. I'm sorry. And he runs out the door. Fine. I would at least feel safe. Like, dude shit his pants. He knows I got a gun.
Right.
Now he might see me as like not the low hanging fruit anymore. But if a guy comes in my house and I'm pointing at a gun at him and he's still crawling in, like, I'm sorry, but your lack of fear would give me so much more fear. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that somebody reaching for your weapon escalates the situation. Now you can make, now again, with our Ahmaud Arbery case and with this case with the Kyle Rittenhouse, obviously the prosecution is going to make the attempt. Well, he feared for his life. That's why he reached for the gun. regardless of how it happened, it's the problem is that everything about both of these cases have been all about race. So like now it's not what it's completely evolved into something different. So it's bigger than what it really is. I mean, obviously it's big because there was a murder, but it evolves into something bigger in society. You know what I mean? Like Kyle Rittenhouse is the face of white supremacy, and the United States is this white supremacy, and the the fact that Ahmaud Arbery got shot, like that just goes to show you that he was just jogging, and the media, they manipulate all this. Like they show him like when he graduated high school, Ahmaud Arbery. So it's like, oh my God, look at this poor, sweet young guy. But yet then you see video of him with an interaction with a cop before, and it was not a good interaction.
Yeah.
So you see that and you're like, okay, now I could kind of understand this dude going to grab this other guy's gun. Now, I'm not saying, because here's the thing. Again, everybody's going to react differently. Like Ahmaud Arbery probably was like, I don't know if the dude was trying to break into whatever. I don't know what the guy's intention was. And he doesn't know what the guys that are following, he doesn't know what their intentions are.
Yeah.
Like he shows somebody fucking pulls up with a gun. Some people were just going to freeze. Some people are going to move into action. Like somebody's going to grab, like your boy's going to grab the $20 off of the fucking bum, and you're just going to stand there and freeze.
Yeah.
Everybody's reaction is going to be different, but everybody wants to make the media and politicians, they want to make this a bigger picture than what it actually is. They want to handpick specific cases to try to push this broad narrative. And it's just completely, it's the same thing when you see like celebrities and everything. Like, and I had to stop following some of them because they would show, here's what happens when a white guy shoots up a fucking school or whatever. He gets taken to Burger King and eats, and he's apprehended and this one's apprehended. There was just a black kid a couple months ago that shot up a bunch of people. And I don't know if it was in Texas. I forget where it was. He shot a bunch of people and he was out on bail. And he was apprehended.
And they were jumping on that story until it turned out to be a black kid.
Yeah, because you automatically assumed.
And then the story turned right into him being bullied.
And then it was like, boom, no story anymore. So, but it was like, but wait, I thought that black people always get shot and killed. Like, how did he get? So that's what I mean. They just brush it on the rug and they act like that those things don't happen, but they do happen.
Yeah.
And, again, if Ahmaud Arbery didn't go to grab this guy's gun, maybe he's still alive. Maybe the police fucking show up. Maybe he puts his hands up and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The cops show up and it gets worked out. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with Rosenbaum. Maybe if he doesn't tell Rittenhouse he's going to fucking kill him if he corners him. If he doesn't go chase after him.
Wait.
Kyle Rittenhouse doesn't shoot him.
Wait. Maybe if when that prosecutor at the end was saying all the things he did, right? So this is what I mean, where every time I step back from this case and I look again, like what you're saying now is making me think something again. It's like, well, lighting a fire, like as someone has said, that lighting a fire, first off, he wasn't just lighting a fire in a dumpster. He was lighting fires in dumpsters and throwing them at the police cars. He flipped over a fucking trailer, lit it on fire. But what they're saying is like, this isn't lighting little fires and trash cans outside a baseball game. This is arson, and it's never, right. And so with what you're saying, it's like, well, maybe if every time he did one of those illegal things that he was allowed to do for the 3 days he was doing it, or the day or the night or whatever, like if you want to make the argument that if Kyle Rittenhouse never brought a gun, that there would have been no problem. Well, maybe if this dude would have been arrested the first time he threw a dumpster on fire at the police, or maybe they didn't get him that time. Maybe the next time when he flipped over the trailer and lit it on fire, or lit 10 more flyers, or swinging a chain around his fucking head. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It's almost fucking ridiculous. But the other thing too that I'll say that, I had another thought when I'm like, I think that self-defense should come into play. Like when you said, I don't know what someone's intentions are, right? So we're talking about being in a house. Somebody comes in, they're unarmed. What are their intentions? Is it my job to figure out what their intentions are? So I even think that it's not something I would do. I wouldn't carry a gun. And I'm not saying I wouldn't carry a gun. I just haven't gone to that level where I feel it's something I want on me because I don't trust myself. I'll blow my foot off. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just me. That's whatever. However, I don't think that you should be entitled to give anyone a fair fight. Like if you're walking down the street and some guy, whether he be 100 pounds or 300 pounds, whether he be a crackhead or a dude that looks like he just got out the fucking gym, you know what I mean? If that guy comes up to you on the street and starts going at you and fucking pushing you against a wall, and you're just walking down the street and you're like, hey, man, get off me. I don't know who you are. Like, get away from me. And he's like, you fight me. I'm going to fucking smash your head in with my fist. Like, there's a lot of people out there that would be like, that guy doesn't deserve to get shot or something. But the average guy, just a fucking, like maybe I'm not a fight. Like, the way the society is set up is that's an attacker. That's not, let's get it out of our head that we're 16 and somebody's like, Billy wants to fight you. I'm talking about like, you're just going to work, man, and you're 40 years old with a bad back. I'm not talking about anybody specific, but I mean, like, and you just like, it's just, you're not a fighter. You don't care anymore. That's not your thing. And some guy attacks you on the street and you end up like blowing the dude's brains out or something. I don't know what you do, And it's like, personally, I really feel like weapon, no weapon or whatever, like dudes, like, I don't even know, like maybe he has a weapon. I don't know what his intentions are. But if I make it clear, look, man, I'm armed and I don't want nothing to do with this. You know what I mean? And the dude keeps that's an attacker. That's not a guy who wants, like, people aren't entitled to just walk around and want fist fights and want to take your fucking shit off you. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And then I also think that, like, in Kyle Rittenhouse's case, it's like, well, maybe the guy, like when they say the guy was scared, so he wanted to take Rittenhouse's gun off him or something. Well, what do scared people do if they're scared of you and they want to get your gun off you and then they get your gun off you? Like, what does he then do with the gun? And then somebody would say, well, okay, you want to make all kinds of decisions for what that man was going to do if he got the gun off me. Well, I'm judging it by what he was doing earlier. So here's a guy swinging chains, lighting fires, throwing shit to police, tell him he's going to kill me. And now he's scared. So he's going to take my gun. Oh, okay. So I'm supposed to just assume. And that's what I'm saying. That's kind of disgusting, is like that people can't just say, like, just like I'm listening to AOC today going like, how can you not condemn this? I mean, it's clearly wrong because of fucking Paul Gozer fucking tweeting out a fucking anime meme or whatever, which I can understand. But I'm saying, I was listening to her point. Why is it so hard for you guys to just accept that what happened is wrong? And it's like, okay, so why is it so hard for you to accept that in this situation, there is a really two different kind of people, and one of them does not deserve the benefit of doing the best thing? Like, two people are involved in something. One has a gun. One guy wants to take the gun off the other guy who legally has a gun. Like, now you're saying, how do you know what he wanted to do? I mean, come on. It's clear as fucking day that whatever he was going to do with it wasn't going to be fucking good. And I would simply make the case that I think there's a very good, it's like the Black Swan event, which is something that you stopped, but you don't know you stopped. And it's like, maybe I think that guy just wanted Kyle's gun. Maybe he wasn't going to kill Kyle. I think they wanted to take his gun. But now you would have an AR-15 floating around a riot amongst people that shouldn't have guns.
Yeah.
So
and again, when we talk about situations are different. A lot of these cases, the Rittenhouse, Ahmaud Arbery, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, all of these shootings took place during some kind of conflict. Now, I just watched a movie, and I think I even talked about it on this podcast, with your boy Steven Dorff, where his house was broken into, and I kind of forget if he was attacked or not, whatever. But he chased the guy out of the house, and the guy was running. And as the guy was running away, he shot him and killed him. And he went to jail. Under those circumstances, like, the guy was fleeing. He was running. His back was towards him. You know what I mean? So he was a no threat at that point. If that would have happened in this situation, the Rosenbaum and the Michael Brown, Trayvon, those situations, then you're like, all right, now we're in a little different territory here because they're not a threat at that moment. It's almost like George Floyd. Like, you can clearly make the argument that George Floyd was not a threat during that time when he was kneeling on him. And I think that's what made it so much worse. You know what I mean? Because he was subdued.
yeah.
In all of these other cases, that wasn't the case. There was a struggle. There was a physical altercation. There was a struggle, and a shooting took place. And again, there are, like I said, I can understand if somebody breaks in your house, maybe attacks your wife or your kid or your dog, and if you're John Wick, somebody's fucking running away, and you're like, pop, pop, pop. But you can't justify taking somebody's life because they punched you in the face and maybe stole your fucking TV.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the court of law. I mean, obviously you're not going to do life for that. Your intent, but you're still probably going to go to jail for something, manslaughter, or third-degree manslaughter, or whatever. So I don't know, man. I think the biggest issue with all of this is the failure of government, the manipulation of media, and that social media, news outlets. And it just goes back to, now we're talking about juror intimidation and jurors afraid of having their informations leaked. And all of these are just a culmination of the extreme nature in which we're blowing all of these cases up into proportion that just into the atmosphere, the stratosphere that they don't need to be. You know what I mean? Like, we're hypersensitive to it all because we're making it about race. We're making it about, gender, sex, whatever, if it's attack on a gay guy, whatever. And it's just crazy, and it's not healthy. And that's the way we started out this podcast, was like, I just don't know, in the era that we're living in, when a case like this gets as big as it does, I don't know that it's possible to have a fair trial.
Yeah. Well, there's no way in hell.
Especially under the circumstances where people are like, well, I'm afraid that if we find him not guilty, that there's going to be backlash from the public that are going to riot in the streets and cause more mayhem.
Yeah. Well, even in, in this case with Kyle Rittenhouse, first off, I personally feel like there is so much shit I'm seeing that's methodical, that it's kind of crazy how methodical and political it is. And whereas I feel before there were actual things that happened that highlighted a real issue, like, let's say in the 80s there was race, I would agree that there probably was like policing that might have been a little too much in certain areas
Right.
Like, I would agree. I mean, I don't, without getting into detail, it's like, I do think a lot of that has swung in a different direction now. It's the same thing, only in reverse. But there was definitely a time where I would feel that even though I felt our situation of where we grew up and what we were dealing with, like, we had our own thing going on where we weren't, it ain't like, like that's what made it, I think, always difficult for us is you would hear people go like, oh yeah, the police, how would you feel if the police just would pick you up for hanging on the corner? Well, that's the first time I ever got arrested, was simply because I was the smallest kid on the corner and they just wanted to fucking arrest me. And that's what they did. And they drove me around and dropped me in the projects.
Right.
But I still would understand that there was probably worse going on in certain areas. And if you happen to have like a couple of shitty cops that were racist, you know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, what I thought was kind of messed up is now. So I guess what I'm saying is, back in the day, there would be a case where it would be like legit racism. And because politicians at the time were fighting for an end to that type of stuff, it would almost be right for like Jesse Jackson to turn up to that trial. Like, I mean, it was like, it didn't seem like it, because the thing was they were probably, race was a lot, like, now we're in this world where the people acting like they're being, held down, I like, we'll just use woke shit. Like, people are in trouble because, you can't say that there's only two genders, and people are losing their job over that. And the people screaming about it are acting as if they're some victim, yet they're walking around saying like if you're not a victim, if you can tell someone that they have to believe a crazy thing or they lose their job, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But now we live in this world where, which, like, now it's almost like they turn anything, like, it's like they realize this power of like, we can turn anything into this and then capitalize on it. But also, I think it's being done methodically. Like, that's what's starting to scare me is, dude, there's something bigger going on here that is either going to be stopped or whatever. And one thing I thought about is, you remember when I said before that I thought the abortion trial was weird, how it came up out of nowhere? Like, how did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've had like a couple people tell me, man, I'm surprised that Rittenhouse trial is already happened, right? Not as if it's too crazy to think that, what was it, a year or whatever? Like, I mean, that's a roundabout time, but they say most of this kind of stuff doesn't go for 2 years. But either way, the fact that the Ahmaud Arbery case and the Rittenhouse case went off at the same time, something that I'm just noticing. I would go look on my YouTube thing for my like recommended stuff, and it would be like, watch the Rittenhouse thing live or watch the Ahmaud Arbery thing live. And on the first day or the first couple of days of Rittenhouse, it was like all clips of Rittenhouse, like white supremacists, da, 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 da. Then it'd be a clip of like prosecution makes case Kyle Rittenhouse was, then all of a sudden, once the news came out that like Rittenhouse, like Rittenhouse's defense team was kind of winning the shit out of the case and the prosecution was falling apart, then my recommended went from all this Kyle Rittenhouse. It was like I'd have to go seek out Kyle Rittenhouse because it was blasting me with the Ahmaud Arbery stuff. And I really feel like those two cases went up simultaneously because they know that one of them is definitely like, this Ahmaud Arbery thing's probably going to end up with this dude in jail. And it's like, they're kind of morphing them together in the sense of, regardless of the outcome of the Kyle Rittenhouse, it's like we have two, like, in other words, I've even noticed this with when Kyle Rittenhouse's stuff started going south for the prosecution, if you put on CNN, they would do that thing where you put one in front of the other and then you could talk about them both as the same. So they would go, right now in this world, we have the Kyle Rittenhouse case and the Ahmaud Arbery case, which is two clear-cut white supremacists. Like, so they just were able to like wharf them together. And I feel like somebody somewhere, and if somebody could say I'm crazy, But look around at the kind of shit that's been going on. And I feel like the fact that these two trials were going on simultaneously, somebody wanted that, somebody wanted these two going on because they thought we might have, like, we either have two major race cases, or when one shows up to not be, we can still just morph it into like whatever happens. That I believe that this Ahmaud Arbery case, like say Rittenhouse goes not guilty, I think the Ahmaud Arbery case is going to go guilty. And they're going to kind of like, instead of celebrating the fact that the justice system worked in the Ahmaud Arbery case, they're just going to highlight the fact that we have two racial things going on about two men. And again, the Kyle Rittenhouse, he didn't kill any black people, but that's what I mean, where they're going to juggle them. Like they're going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse case, then go to the Ahmaud Arbery case, and then just morph them together. Like ended on saying, it just shows you that you can kill black men in America, that white people think that they're above the law, and they're going to morph these things in. And the common person is just going to assume that there's two white supremacist case going on about innocent killings of black people right now for the casual guy,
And it's because they are very similar in the situations. Now, the only difference is there's a lot of footage for Kyle Rittenhouse. You see him there. There's video footage of him earlier in the night saying, I'm here to give medical attention to people, to help people out. And there were witnesses saying that he actually helped people out, prior to the whole shooting that took place. The problem with the Ahmaud Arbery is there's no footage. So people's imagination can just run wild.
Well, there is footage of the killing. No, that's the first. That's why I'm saying it's cut and dry to me, dude.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and let me say this though.
It's not
Tom, you're right.
Clear. Like I mean, with the Rittenhouse, like you see him getting attacked. The only situation is the only one that is like Ahmaud Arbery's case is when he shot Rosenbaum because he was unarmed.
Yeah.
And I forgot there is the footage for that. But again, you can see him kind of like going back at them. You know what I mean? So, but I think more than likely they're going to be found guilty. Those with the Ahmaud Arbery case. I have no idea. I don't know enough details about that case other than my uncle making the argument to me, because initially I was like, whoa, like what the fuck? Like that's fucked up. And then my uncle was like, no, and here's why. And he kind of broke it down as to why. He was like, that dude reached for their gun, and that's probably why they shot. And if you and if anybody would make the argument, oh, well, that's just fucking racist. My uncle also fucking thinks that Bill Cosby is innocent. So, he's like, oh, that whole case is fucking bullshit.
No, so my thing with the Armada, this is why, and you're right. Like, I'm not gonna. I didn't. That's why I didn't choose not to speak on it too much. But the reason why I'm saying like, and so if you think the way I'm thinking about it, that's why I think that they're both kind of going on simultaneously. Is I believe that there's a case to be made to get these guys off. But even when I was like, I kept putting this off to like even look into this case. I was like, let me watch this guy's testimony. And like the guy's up there explaining why he changed his statement and stuff. And like you got Kyle Rittenhouse who breaks into fucking tears uncontrollably and can't tell his story anymore once he gets to the attack part. And like this guy's like, he was like, they were like, why do you think you were nervous when you were giving your statement? He's like, because I just killed somebody, like literally.
Right.
Now, I feel that like this is what I mean. In that case, those guys may have had a right, but the whole thing, it was like, in other words, Kyle Rittenhouse, we can go in our brain. Like people are still having trouble with understanding why Kyle Rittenhouse would be there. And so if you look at that Ahmaud Arbery case, it's like, yeah, maybe these guys were right and all, but like they clearly decided that they were going, like they said they were making a citizen's arrest and stuff. That's like their defense, that we were going to make a citizen's arrest and yada, yada, yada. And so what I'm just getting at is I'm not saying that I'm not saying they're racist, or I'm not saying whatever, but I just feel that they have to, like in Kyle Rittenhouse's case, he's innocent and he has to like hope to God that all this the way they present their case can convince 12 people to see and understand that he was innocent. In the other case, it's like you're going to hope that these 12 jurors don't care about where the kind of person you are, what your intentions were, whether you had business being there or not. And you're going to hope that they make the case based solely on the incident that ended up in a guy's death who was unarmed. And it's just kind of like, I don't feel that they had the right to be there in the way that they feel they did. And so I just can't I can't find a way to bring my brain to understand how you could see a guy coming out of a abandoned construction site that you're told to keep your eye on because some guy's been kind of messing around with shit in there. And then you come out, he's running down the street. Then you follow him with your truck while you're in the back, standing up in the back with a shotgun. I mean, it all just looks horrible. You know what I mean?
Well, this here's the thing.
I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying he's wrong.
But here's the thing. Like, we're so divided in this country over cases like this, but it's not as clear cut as people make it out to be. Like, people want to make the case with the Ahmaud Marbury thing. I keep getting his fucking name mixed up. Ahmaud Arbery. They want to make it like it's in like slavery time. And these guys saw this black guy running down the street and they fucking pulled up on him and they shot him. That's not the case. Like, again, there's a backstory as to why this transpired. With the George Floyd thing, I can't even remember the cop's name.
Derek Chauvin.
Everybody sees that guy and everybody's like, oh, he's a fucking murderer. But you can't prove intent. Unless, of course, if he walked over as George Floyd was laying on the ground and pulled out his gun and shot him in the head. Well, it's clear cut. Like, you're not trying to subdue somebody by shooting him in the fucking head. Like, your intent was to murder that person. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's cases like that, you know, that we see that it's clear the intent. You shoot somebody in the fucking head, you're not trying to drop them or protect yourself. Like, you're trying to fucking kill them. You know what I mean? But the media has played, like, just completely blown these things out of proportion. And the way everything in this country right now is leaning towards, we're making it into something where it's impossible for people to think rationally. And even the fact that I'm even talking about that makes me a white supremacist, because that's white splaining.
Yeah, like it's crazy. There's so many moments where I go in to like say something and I'm like, I'm sounding like because that's what I think the tactic is like to take that from you.
But it's like it's no different than with COVID. You can't think rationally because you go against the national narrative, and then you're just boom, you're done. But
this is what I mean, where I keep getting into this thing where I'm like, dude, it's methodical, because somebody might say to you, oh, like that sounds crazy to say, right? But it's like they have I feel that we have a party of government or we have a party within our government who has capitalized on what would be like kind of a Marxist tactic. And they've now established it so well where you can just it's the equation. Like they know X, they know if you do X and you do Y, you'll get Z, and they apply it to everything. And that's what I think is crazy is there's so many things that they've made where, boo, stop. Where there's so many things that they've done where just you, like they've created this thing where it's like, I'm going to explain my side. And then they've got these people triggered in their head where it's like, just him going to do that shows like, I've been taught that that's whatever. And it's like, now you can't, it's like the only way to live within their rules is to shut the fuck up and obey, you know? If you just gave in to the system that's against you, then you would have, like, if people said, oh, what's the big deal about every little thing? Then you'd be going, okay, get my shot, get my booster, shut my mouth. Oh, my friend's sick after the vaccine, but I am not allowed to say anything. And you know what I mean? Like, I can't, Kyle, I think Kyle right now self-defense, but I guess me thinking that is part of the white privilege that I have, like you just like it's crazy. And that's why there's two, like, it's not like we're divided, because it's hard to say, because sometimes I question myself. Are we being brainwashed? Are we whatever? But I am just continuing to be me. And there's a bulldozer of shit coming in telling me to change. And I'm not fighting back with talking points from the right. I'm just fucking not letting people, encroach who I am,
Right.
I'm not like going like, let me fucking, I don't even care about CR. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the talking points they say, I was like, oh, we've created the CRT, whatever. Like, I mean, I think it's fucked up, but my fight isn't CRT. My fight is censorship, telling me I don't have a fucking say, telling me that I'm just born, whatever. It's kind of crazy where we've gotten, dude.
Well, people want to speak in certainties. You know what I mean? And you have a lot of like talk shows and people, like, especially like weirdos on The View that are like, argue with people like, oh no, he did that. He went there to kill people. How do you know? Like, here's the thing. I just thought of this as we were discussing being open-minded and questioning the narrative. O.J. Simpson killed Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. But how do we know that his intent was to kill them? Like, how do we know that he went there with the intent to kill her? What if Ron Goldman wasn't there? Does he kill Nicole Brown that night? Maybe he saw Ron Goldman and was pissed off and stabbed him. And then he was like, oh, well, I stabbed him. I'm arguing with her. Now I got to kill her too. Like, and again, the intent, it's so much different than like if somebody just walks up. Like, it's almost like, did you ever see that movie American Gangster with Denzel Washington?
Yeah.
When the dude owes them money and they're in the middle of broad daylight, and he takes his gun out, shoots him right in the fucking head. He intended to kill that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, there was no hesitation. You owe me money. Boom. Dead. You're done. That's it. But like, maybe like, yeah, again, OJ's guilty, but there's elements. It's not like what makes somebody a murderer? Like, that guy that just shot that dude in the middle of the fucking street, that's a fucking murderer. Like, that's a cold-hearted murderer. OJ, on the other hand, I don't know that I could put him on the same page as that guy, because look, it's a crime of passion. You're fucking jealous. You see your fucking wife with another dude. You walk home. You've been working a fucking 10-hour shift. Somebody comes home and sees their wife in bed with somebody else, and they fucking murder them. Like, you have a mental break. You see some things happening, like, and you just snap. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, there's different levels to all this, but people want certainties, and they just want to say, oh, well, OJ killed. This is what, he's the same as this person and as this murderer. And like, no, there's different degrees of it.
Well, people want certainties. You are right. I do agree. But it seems like people want certainties when It's not related to something that they want. Like,
Oh yeah.
like people want certainties. Like, in other words, the same people that would be wanting a certainty here with this Kyle Rittenhouse case. Like, he went there with intent to kill these people, blah, 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 are the same people that would like ration away all of what may have happened in the OJ case. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, I mean, maybe not, but I get, just to make another point on the certainties. Did you see the video I sent you, that dude, the NFL player?
Yes.
So like, there's a perfect example. If that guy beat he didn't beat the shit out of her, but he did, in the sense of that he fucking manhandled her.
Yeah, he pretty.
No, I mean, but what I'm saying is like, but I don't think that, like, dude, I'm not defending the guy. It was horrible. It was actually insane. And the fact that they had like fucking every angle possible, like the video I sent you, the guy cut it. Like, okay, here he's throwing her. Now here's from the TV. But if she were to die, I think that guy he's a murderer in the sense that he murdered her. You know what I mean? But I would actually have compassion for that guy, because clearly he doesn't know how to fucking handle his emotions or something. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think he was like, I'm going to kill this person, but he's throwing this one, like, say he, like, the way he threw her into that TV. And this is a perfect example of what you were saying right now. He's a guy who's like, can you believe he did that? But dude, the way he threw her in that TV, one little bit more of power, or one little, like, throw her into the right place.
Yeah.
And she's dead.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so go with what you're,
some people would make the argument, oh, he wanted to kill her.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, no, he clearly, he was wrong. Clearly he was going to fight. Like, he intended to hurt her. It's clear that he wanted to abuse her.
You can make the case with, say, a DUI.
Right.
Like, I look at people and they're like, can you believe that guy fucking, like, you got that football player who was just going 100 miles an hour or whatever, and he fucking killed somebody. And that's horrible. However, that's why people shouldn't drink and drive, because every time you get in your car completely ossified drunk, you are just as much of a murderer as that man, whether you make it home without hitting anybody or not.
You just got lucky.
Yeah.
Like,
and so I'm not, I mean, I don't know where any of that compares into what we're saying, but it's
because there's people like the Henry Rugg situation, you know, when he, the drunk driver, people are like, oh, dude, he was going 156 miles an hour or whatever it was. Like, I have no compassion for that guy. And I'm like, in a way I do, because I know people, you know, that have gotten in cars and drove home that probably shouldn't have. And I know people that, oh man, I sideswiped this car and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, and you're taking that chance. Maybe you weren't doing 156 miles an hour, but all you got to be doing is fucking 25, 30, and you could potentially kill somebody. You know what I mean? So like,
well, I think a perfect comparable example, you have what happened to him, and then you have what happened to Paul Walker.
Yeah.
And it's like, if Paul Walker would have took two innocent people, even though he wasn't driving, but that the people in that car, both, I'm not saying that anybody praised them by any means, but because they just died themselves, it was like, you know, the fucking Fast and Furious is doing a whole thing to them, and then the street was covered in flowers for them, and it was just horrifying thing. I mean, the guy loves fast cars, made the movie Fast and Furious, and jumped in a fucking Porsche or something, and they were going like 150 miles an hour around a fucking turn in a residential area in California. And if, like I said, if they would have just, if there would have been an innocent person standing in the way there, that would have been a whole different story for them, you know? That's crazy. Can you imagine being brought in? Like, that's my biggest fear, is being blacked out drunk and waking up and finding out that you did something and there's no way out of it. Like just the same way you wake up in the morning and your friends are like, dude, you fucking punched Rob in the face last night. And you're like, oh, and for the rest of your life, nobody's really giving you the benefit. Like they don't, like you can say you were drunk. Your friend might be like, that's cool. You're drunk, whatever, but he's still going to hate you. And you
Right.
have to live with that thing that you did that you don't even remember.
Right.
Imagine being in jail for the rest of your life for something you don't even remember doing that also isn't something you'd want to do, isn't something that is a characteristic of who you are. Like you're sitting in there and you're a murderer, you murdered people, and all you remember is like doing shots at the bar and smiling. Oh my God.
Yeah. So like that's what I mean when it comes to like degrees. Like, so like now Henry Ruggs, the football player, people are like, oh fuck that guy, throw away the key. He killed this girl and the dog, like it's completely innocent. And I'm like, I get it, but like he's not the same as Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, and that's where this is where I kind of am on the Ahmaud Arbery thing of what I mean. Now again, I'm not debating like your own. I mean, I will admit I saw the video and I read a little bit about it back in the day, and I just watched this guy's testimony. But like, I'm not here to argue anything. But where I see it just from a bird's eye view is like, I feel like these guys are probably going to go to jail, and that could be debatable. However, the certainty that people are like, basically, I don't believe that it was two white guys out hunting a black guy. You know what I mean? And I don't believe it's whites. I don't know where they're from, what it's like. I mean, they're definitely like two hillbilly guys. I mean, there are some things that may even be race related in a sense. However, it's like, I feel that if I got all the facts of the case, there would be these things where it's like, wow, he went for the gun, and the fact, like like in other words, I don't expect this guy to not go to jail, but it would really suck if he just there was some debatable things that went down, but instead he's going to be labeled with that certainty and that he maybe doesn't deserve. You know what I mean? Like even in Ruggs,
yeah.
I guess the reason why I'm saying that is like Ruggs. It's like, look, I'm not going to go stand outside the courthouse and say he's an innocent man and he shouldn't go to jail, because like I could sit here and say it kind of sucks. I don't think that what he did is something that means he's a murderer or means he's someone that should be in jail for life. But again, it's like kind of like, well, that's the law. That's what's going to happen to him. And so I wouldn't think that he should get out of jail. But if I was sitting in a room with somebody who was like, he's a fucking murderer, he's a piece of shit, he like the intent to kill wasn't there.
Dude, I feel bad for Derek Chauvin the same way I do for Henry Ruggs.
Yes.
Because I personally don't believe that the intent was to kill in both of their cases. Were they fucking jerk offs? Were they stupid? Were they fuck ups? Absolutely. But when we try to make these things, especially with the Chauvin thing, because it's hypersensitive because of race. And that's the thing with both of these now cases. Obviously, it's all about race. And with the Ahmaud Arbery, I don't know anything about these guys, but I do know that there was no race wasn't brought into the Derek Chauvin case because there was nothing. They couldn't prove that he's a racist.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Rittenhouse thing. They apparently, I was listening to somebody, it might have been that same guy that was on Tim Pool, and he was like, no, the prosecutors and everything, the FBI, they went all through his social media accounts, all fucking through his family, everything. There was nothing for them to find. Now, look, the guys that shot Ahmaud Arbery, if they fucking pulled up, you pull up to their house and they got Confederate flags and fucking Nazi symbols and shit all over the place. Okay, now it's a different ballgame. You know what I mean? But if that's not the case, then and you're not how do we know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where with society today, man, I think it's so weird. I think it's so weird, man, that people just they don't want to ask questions. They just want certainties. They want, they want to buy into their own groups. And I don't know, man. Like I
But
just can't. I just don't see. I don't. For some of the smartest people I know, like it's just
yeah,
like
that's the crazy part.
it's like they're just so certain of things, and it's like, well, how? I
Well,
just don't get it.
well, this is what makes me laugh too. And go back to the person you were having the conversation with about somebody robbing their house or whatever. Let me tell you something right now. If someone was climbing in their house, yeah, I feel like one thing that's gotten me in trouble over the years in arguments with people that I know neither of us will ever be able to prove, right?
Right.
It's like you get in these arguments where Dan says what he would do to someone in a situation, and sometimes I'm the brave one, right? Sometimes I'm saying, oh, I'd blow that guy's head off. They're hypothetical situations. And I'll be dealing with somebody who I feel is full of shit in what they're telling me they do. But yet that whatever decision has come out of it as sticks, And I remember like one of them where it would not be positive for me was a situation when I was younger that always sticks out in my head, where I was seeing a girl and I was afraid of the person that was like her ex-boyfriend and maybe even her boyfriend at the time.
Right.
And I said to someone who I feel like someone who I've beaten the shit out of in a fight, like, one of our friends who I've definitely would be considered at that time to be, someone who could beat the shit out of this person. Right. And we had a theoretical argument where I was being vulnerable. And I was like, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I'm scared to fucking come across this dude.
Yeah.
And I kind of like put a scenario together or something. And the other person involved was like, I don't care. I'll fight anybody or whatever. And this is what I'm getting at. This situation doesn't really but just kind of shows the characteristics of people. It's like, I'm being vulnerable. And I feel like there are people out there that won't be vulnerable, and then they'll also like attack your vulnerability. So you say, like, you decide to tell what you would honestly do in a situation, and there's a lot of people out there, instead of being like, hey man, he's right. Like, let's just say we were having a conversation about the N-word and you said, look, I've said it. And then all of a sudden I was like, that's disgusting. You said it. Can you believe he said that? And everyone's in the room's like, I would never say that. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you were the only one there with balls. And instead of those people being like, I see his point, they chose to make that moment and highlight it and attack your vulnerability and your honesty and amplify their thing, which isn't true. It's all theoretical,
Right.
And so going back to the talk about the guy fucking what he would do, somebody crawling in his window. If Kyle Rittenhouse was to fucking burst through that dude's back door at the same time with the AR and say, get against the wall, man, I got your back. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? That guy'd be like, oh, thank you, Kyle. Thank you so much, Kyle. Oh my God. And that, like, I seen so many people posting videos today where one of them was the Asian girls getting beat up on the bus by those kids. And somebody was like, something about like, oh, could you imagine if Kyle Rittenhouse was there or something? Like they were saying it like as if that like the situation would have been worse. And I'm thinking in my head, man, those Asian girls probably wish that they had a Kyle Rittenhouse in their group right now because they're getting their asses fucking whooped for no reason.
Right.
And that's the other thing that people don't understand is, dude, there was this little skinny Asian girl and she gets drugged down to the ground. She's getting like kicked in the face. Listen, just like we said about that guy throwing that chick in the TV. People aren't always intending to kill people, but fucking hitting somebody repeatedly in the fucking head when they're already fucking down and they're done. Yeah, I don't know what the person's thinking. I doubt they're thinking I'm going to kill them, But that's the fucking stupidity of people where they think that they can just keep bashing you in the fucking head when you're passed out, or when you're, whatever. And it's like, at what point are you legally allowed to protect yourself against someone who's unarmed? Or at what point are people going to be sent a message that you can't do that? It's ridiculous. And
it's
and I'm getting nervous that honestly, I want to see what the reason why I'm so waiting for this Kyle fucking Rittenhouse verdict is because, dude, I feel like we might go into fucking round 2 of all this shit. And I think it's methodical. I think it's fucking planned. I think everything up to tampering with the fucking jury, because it's not tampering with the jury. It's just doing enough, smearing the judge enough, smearing the jury enough, not to it like you even said to me, like for radio. Like, I don't think anybody is trying to get a picture of the jurors. I don't think they're even gonna get a picture of the jurors. I don't think anything's gonna happen to the judge, but they're doing just enough so that the judge holds back and doesn't call straight up for a mistrial and leaves it on the jury. And then the jury is just scared enough that they might never come to deliberation and become a hung jury. Whereas if they didn't have the fear of the media, so I think that the what's going on here is they want this Kyle Rittenhouse case because they know Kyle's innocent. They know that they can't just leave it go without, like, they know they can't have the prosecutor just prosecute it normally and fair, because it will just end up in everyone being wrong. Media was wrong the whole time. Look at this horrible fucking thing. Now, when this trial ends and it's been poisoned or whatever you want to call it, it's, when this trial ends and if Kyle Rittenhouse is found guilty, I mean, or if the worst case scenario, I guess, but best case scenario is that he's innocent, which he is. All people will remember is the prosecutors stated this. The witness came on CNN afterwards and said, oh, he's a victim. And the only reason why this kid got off was because the jury couldn't make a decision and the judge is biased. So the truth still stays locked away. Like, I think that the goal was to make sure that this case didn't just become like jurors unanimously decide that he was innocent. And then it's just, he was in self-defense. He was there legally. He wasn't racist. He wasn't there to just kill people. They needed to end where, okay, the verdict goes the way where Kyle Rittenhouse gets, like, he's not going to complain. He's free. He's innocent. He's allowed to live his life. However, the fight for, and me and you have said this before on here, where the goal of all these politicians, even going up to the Jussie Smollett shit, where it's like, we know that he was wrong. We know he lied, but they made sure that that case ended in a way where we can still argue. They didn't care the result. They didn't care whether fucking Jussie Smollett fucking, we don't know what punishment he got or whatever, or what his fine was. He definitely didn't get away with that. However, he didn't change no minds were changed. The people that knew he was fucking guilty are still think he's guilty. And the people that thought that he was innocent and it was some type of fucking thing done by Trump supporters, whatever else, can now sit there and say, well, he fucking didn't get, like, like, you get what I mean? They leave that shit hanging in the air so that we still fight. And that's what they want to do with this Kyle Rittenhouse thing. They want to make it where at the end of the day, it's over, but we'll fight about it for the next 10 years. It'll still get brought up for the next 10 years. The politicians can still point to it. They'll still be saying Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. So we'll see.
And there'll be more riots in the streets and there'll be more chaos. And then,
but do they want it? Do they want it?
Yes, Bill Gates is sitting there like, he's like population control. He's like, unleash the smallpox.
Dude, I literally just pictured him because I'm thinking about you when he's going to make us eat bugs.
Yeah.
I just pictured him in like a room, like while they're like breeding, like crickets are being bred by scientists. He's like, how are my bug burgers doing?
Yeah. And Fauci's like, this is all your fault. You didn't get your booster. Now we got smallpox. You jerks. That's what happens when you don't trust Fauci and science.
Dude, it's all greed. It's all greed. It's all these people. Like, this is what I think makes people not be able to get on board with the fact that there is some demonic shit going on, is because you have to imagine it like as if they all meet in a room. Like Fauci gets brought in a room and Bill Gates is there and they're like, okay, what are we going to do now? Blah, 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 blah. No, but what happens is if you know what everybody's selfish goal is, like what is Fauci's, like if you know what Fauci is and what he's about, and you know that he's already been compromised, like, oh, what, like say somebody says to Bill Gates, like, yeah, but what happens if fucking Fauci, turns around and starts to kind of go against the vaccine? It's like Bill Gates in his head is like, he'll never do that because he's already been proven to fucking be a douchebag when it comes to China and money and everything else. So he's never going to turn back on it. We know what kind of guy he is. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think that people meet in a room and come up with a plan. I think everybody's opportunistic. And there are certain people that just push one piece of the puzzle over to get what they want, but that has a domino effect. And the thing is as long as these people keep pushing that one domino over, they just all will eventually, like at the end of the day, we're at the bottom of it, And so it's not like people are planning to kill us. It's like, if you know that if you just think about the vaccine, and I'm not, for YouTube or whoever, I'm not saying this, I'm saying it theoretically. If there were to be a problem with the vaccine and Pfizer was to not be doing it maliciously, but Pfizer was to go, we want everybody to take this. And somebody says, well, how do we get this passed? Well, we'll get the FDA to approve it, whatever. Well, how will we do that? Like, in other words, they don't have to sit and talk in a room and the FDA's on board. They just find a way to make and then the FDA lies for Pfizer because Pfizer promised the FDA something. And then the Pfizer is out of it. And now that domino keeps falling because they know that everybody will selfishly try and protect themselves. But in the end, that we're that last end of the domino where it may not be that they're trying to kill people or trying to hurt people or whatever, but they selfishly made a decision for their own financial gain, and they're all covering it at the cost of the fact that innocent people get hurt and die, and they're the ones that nobody cares about. At the end of the day, is the small people at the bottom of this whole domino effect.
Right.
Does that make sense? How people just kind of like, when you start saying it, like it's like the Alex Jones thing of like, it's like there's a master plan and there's a whatever, and it's like, there's not a master plan, but I feel like, again, with the equation, people understand the equation. Like they can't make you riot, but they know that people are selfishly latched on to pushing an agenda with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. And is politicians working with CNN and then working with the courts and then working with the protesters? No, but CNN does what it does because it's already locked into lying. And then the politicians know that they can say whatever the fuck they want. And then when somebody says, hey, but what if the media tells them the truth? They're like, the media ain't going to tell them the truth. So then it gets amplified. And then at the end of the day, everybody knows that if it gets amplified to that level, the protesters are going to get violent. But that doesn't mean that they all needed to get together and work that out. They just know, hey, tip this one domino and they'll all fucking fall. And then the only people that get hurt in the end are the people putting signs up outside their fucking house saying, we have children that live here. You know what I mean? And nobody cares about those people.
Yeah, crazy times, crazy world we're living in as the world turns left.
I know we went on a little long, but do you want to talk about that? You want to talk about sex?
No, I don't. We had some other topics that we were going to address, but at this point, we're 2 hours into talking about Kyle. My dick's not hard anymore. So
yeah. Although Kyle's a cute little guy. Oh, dude, I want to make I'm going to make a confession on here.
What's that?
Dude, I've seen my first tranny that I would have sex with.
Really?
The fucking chick Blaire on that Tim Pool. Did you see that?
She's a tranny?
Dude, I was looking the whole time. I'm like, is she hot? But she kind of looks like a dude. And I'm like, I don't know. Like Rogan's chatting with her. She's fucking like he's the Alex Jones, like Blaire on my lap. Nobody ever. This is also why I love how people make us all out to be fucking shitheads. I'm looking at her. I'm like, she looks like a dude a little bit. And then I went on like her Instagram and I'm like, I don't know. It looks like a fucking chick to me. And then I went all the way down her Instagram and there's like an interview of her on Dr. Phil and she looks more like a boy and it was transitioning. But the reason why I'm saying I love how they make us out to be like homophobes and stuff.
Right.
They didn't even you would think that they'd be going like, you're a tranny. You know what I mean? Like nobody even brought that shit up. And I'm sure they know it's on her Instagram.
I didn't know. So like I saw a couple clips and I actually listened to the podcast, but so on the clips that I saw this chick and I was like, oh, she looks hot.
That's a man.
That's a dude.
That's a hot dude though. That's what I say when anybody says that.
Well, wait, so she's fully transitioned. I guess. I don't know.
Now you're getting where I was going, where you're like, I don't know, maybe I bang a dude if it's got a vagina. See, that's the thing, though.
Well, dude, I don't know that I ever told this story on here. So, I mean, I guess since we're all confessing,
yes,
I went. So, like,
oh man,
several years ago,
yes,
several years ago, I worked at Williams-Sonoma, and I worked with a couple gay guys. We were going to the Eastern State Penitentiary. It was around Halloween. It was me, a couple girls, and a couple of the gay guys that I work with. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, we're going, but it was sold out, so we couldn't get in. And the one dude was like, well, all I know, we're like in the city, and I was young. I was like 22, 23. So like, I didn't really know all the place. And John, like, I didn't know that area in particular. And John was like, all I know is gay bars. And of course, all the girls were like, oh yeah, let's go to the gay bars, blah, blah, blah. So
chicks love them gay bars.
I was like, all right, whatever. Like, and I said to my friend Heather, I'm like, listen, you're just make sure that you're my girlfriend. She's like, yeah, sure. So we go to this one place. It was like a little dive, and then we left and we went to it was like a nicer kind of like gay bar. Like it was like very kind of trendy feel. And it's weird because I had like Nike fucking swoosh pants on. Like I'm like, oh, fuck,
please
man.
don't nobody rub me.
Yeah. And I was like talking to John. John was the gay dude I worked with.
I'm picturing like everybody like, Tom, you all right? You're like, yeah. You have a big giant heart on in your
big heart on like in my swoosh pants. And everybody like, oh, you feel fit. You're like right at home. But John was like, I was like, oh shit, that chick over there is really hot. And John was like, that's a dude. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, listen, John was the gay guy, and I guess he frequented these places quite often. And he was like, look, there's a lot of girls, a lot of like fag hags that come around here. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. That's what a gay guy said to me. So like, whatever. And he was like, but there's also like transition, like, transvestite, whatever, that they look like women. I mean, they're like hot. And I was like, and I kept looking over. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I was want to just be like, is it like, I wanted to ask her, but like,
no, you start getting real intrigued. Like, that's what I mean. I was like, this guy, I was so convinced. I'm like, it's gotta be a dude. I'm like, I mean, to the point where I accepted that I guess it wasn't. And I was like, no, it's a guy. Went all the way down, but it's more, you're so intrigued.
It's like a mirage in the fucking desert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, no, that's real.
Dude.
That exists. That's
dude,
real.
I'll never forget walking down Atlantic City Boardwalk, and I was like we was like coming from one casino to the other. I was kind of shit faced with one of my friends, and I'm walking down the fucking boardwalk, and there's this smoking hot like silhouette of a chick with a fucking fat ass in front of me, like skinny waist, big fat ass, great legs, high heels on, fucking whatever. I'm walking down the boardwalk and I'm going like, you probably hear me saying it to my buddy. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you see this chick over here? And some homeless guy goes, that's a man. And I looked over. I said, well, that man's got a fucking hot ass on him.
Yeah, dude. I didn't know that. Like I said, I saw the clips and I was like, oh, that broad's pretty hot. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know it. Like,
yeah, that's a crazy thing, isn't it? Like if they have a vagina and they got like, it's weird. Still, you can't do it. What I started thinking is like, what happens if you like marry a manny or whatever they're called, and you like, what happens when they get older? Like, say you buy into it because you're like, it's like a chick and we get along, whatever. But then like at some point, they're going to not be able to put the kind of care into themselves. So they're going to become like a saggy old man. You know what I mean? Like same, like, yeah, I mean, I'm just, hey man, I'm a saggy old man. I bet you Blaire wouldn't even want to fuck with me. But what I'm just saying is, I wonder if people make that decision because they decide it's a female. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, I'm not gay, but it's a female now, you know?
I thought she had a feminine, really, really feminine voice too. I don't remember it sounding a little.
There's something you can always hear. There's always this, like, it's like a high octave or something where I'm like, that's a dude. And here's my thing. Hey, you can say, I don't know, maybe whatever, but I was like, that's not a chick, although it looks like a chick, you know? Whatever. I probably sound like I'm being a dick. Trust me, I'm not, because I was sitting there kind of like trying to talk myself into fucking like, hey, I would do it. I mean, I'm not kidding. Blaire's a hottie, a hot dude.
Yeah, like I saw that and I was like, wow, that broad's pretty hot. I had no idea who it was, so I was like, intrigued. I'm like, oh, I'll have to look her up. I'll have to go stalk her Instagram, see what I see.
Yeah, but you can't. It's a tough one, man. But I am getting to the point in my life where I'm like, fuck it, I'll bang a dude if he's nice to me.
Yo, I work
treats
with this
me
guy.
Nice.
Dude, it's funny you say that because I work with a guy. This dude Ricky, he's like fucking 50, 58. And he's always like, after you turn 50, it's not gay anymore. And I was like, what? And he goes, what are you gonna do? You got somebody that fucking cares about you. Who cares?
Like, yeah, but I could never like.
And I'm like, nah, I don't think that's all, Rick.
See,
like,
and dude, that's the one thing though about being like, that's why I even hate sometimes there's something I do, maybe even what we just talked about there, where somebody would be like, oh, he's gay. If I was gay, I'll tell you. But the thing is it's like, and it doesn't mean anything. I'm not speaking bad on it. It's just, I want everybody to do what they want to do. However, I just have it's never interested me. I couldn't, I've never looked at another man and been like, oh man, and even had that thought if I wasn't trying to force that thought in my head to be like, could you? But like, you know, if that's the thought you have and that's what you want, go for it. But I don't, you know?
Yeah, dude, trust me. If I was gay, I would say it because then I'd be able to say anything on this podcast and not have to
it'd be so good. It'd be so great.
I would just fucking say whatever and everybody would be like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I mean, I think, but here's the other part though. I think that when I see someone like that, Blaire, it does kind of scare me because you say to yourself, like, you never know, bro. You never know if you've done it by accident.
Well, especially if you were like really drunk.
You would never know.
You were just like, well, nobody's going to talk you out of that, especially when you're drunk and they're like, Dan, that's a guy. And you're like, the fuck, no.
Yeah, dude, here's the best part.
You would be like, you guys are drunk, man. That's 100% vagina right there.
If I seen a friend of mine, like, say you're at the casino, all of a sudden he comes back and he's definitely with a tranny. As long as the tranny was not like malicious, if he's like, Hey, this is a girl I just met. I'd be like, oh, nice to meet you. I'd be laughing in my head like, here's my room key.
Yeah, why don't you guys go in my room?
I would egg that on. Oh man.
Uh,
All right. Well,
all right.
somehow let them Kyle Rittenhouse did. Grannies, but
Yeah, that's a great way to end this plane and or land this plane. That's probably gonna get us in trouble.
that's what I started thinking too. That whole conversation at the end, all of a sudden, everything was kind of in the, and then we went to that, and it's weird.
Yeah,
But
nosedive.
yeah. But all right, brother. Well,
All right, yeah, we'll save it. We'll save a couple of the topics for next time.
all right, yeah, all right, guys. Remember, like and subscribe,
Yes,
and
please share,
yeah,
subscribe, because we are definitely getting banned off of some of these platforms. Like
yeah,
we're not we're not getting the views that we did get. That's for damn sure.
YouTube definitely changed something on us.
Yeah,
100%, dude.
They're not, layman's terms is that what the hell? I can't think of that domino at the end.
Yeah.
Like we're not getting it anymore.
They gave us a run at it.
And I think a lot of it has to do, I think we did pretty good this episode. Like, I don't think we really cursed much, but I know a couple podcasters that are like, oh, I can't, like, they really make sure they don't curse much.
You are right, but I'll say this. From what I've read, because I've read about this, and it's not how much you curse, it's how you curse. And that's why I would disagree with you, though, in a sense. And the reason why a lot of those people don't curse on YouTube is because they have other sponsorships.
Well, yeah.
So in other words, like YouTube shouldn't, because here's the thing, you can put kind of pornography on YouTube. And you know, as long as you're not marking it for kids, which I don't. I put it's for kids, but I put it's not for kids, but it's also not.
Yeah, but you can also put porn on Twitter, but you can't say I love Trump. So
that's what I mean. It's crazy world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but yeah, guys. So, share, like, all that good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Keep us in the mix. Podcast of the year.
And if you're a hot tranny out there, you know where to find us.
Yeah, like, subscribe, come on the podcast.
All right, dude. Later, man.
All right, brother.